All right, it looks like we are live. I am terribly excited and terribly nervous. This is my first time doing one of these live streams, so I will try my gosh darndest to keep it PG-13 with the language. But we'll kick it off with a joke. Jared, why did the frog go to the hospital?
Why did the frog go to the hospital, Baron?
Because he needed a operation. So, boom, let's jump right into it. Howdy, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Introducing myself, I'm Baron Stone. I'm an AI product manager with Defense Unicorns. Quick 30-second background. Spent over 12 years now in the Air Force between active duty and reserve time, still serving as a reservist. So someone who's very much cares about getting capabilities into the hands of our warfighters, and AI being one of those game-changing capabilities we really need to get a handle on. And wearing the suit, also feeling the challenges and pain sometimes of being able to bring new technology into the DoD. So very passionate about that. Realized today I joined Defense Unicorns exactly 4 months ago. So excited to celebrate that milestone. And I've got here my big-brained and big-bearded colleague, Jared, to keep me honest with things. So Jared, let you introduce yourself.
Yeah, hey everyone. I'm Jared Dillon, the AI Chief Architect here at Defense Unicorns. As mentioned to my beard, I am not wearing a shirt. This is the beard. And so my background is working very closely with platform systems and Kubernetes over the past 8 years, transitioning more into AI and data as a startup founder, and now starting to work on getting AI in production in air-gapped and otherwise adverse environments here at Defense Unicorns. Back to you, Baron.
Awesome. All right, well, let's talk about AI. I think it's fair to say AI is having a bit of a moment. It's exciting, it's new, especially generative AI, which has exploded in the past couple of years. I was trying to think of something to act as a point of reference of how new generative AI is, and I realized the pair of socks I'm wearing today is older than transform-based LLMs. And the takeaway there is this stuff is new, not Baron where it's old socks. But you know, it's everything everyone's talking about. As you logged into LinkedIn today and scrolled while you're waiting for this to start, can't go 2 minutes without tripping over posts about AI. It's the hot topic. Clearly, world leaders also spend a lot of time on LinkedIn and see all those posts because they're also just as excited about AI. We've seen big investments very explicitly over the past couple of years from our friends over in China and Russia with their investments in building out AI capabilities.
Did we just lose? There we go.
Oh, did I lose you, Jared?
You know, you had a moment of a moment there, so maybe go back just a little bit.
Oh, okay. So yeah, it's we've seen other countries calling out China and Russia here explicitly, very explicitly making their intentions to invest in AI technology for their betterment, their empowerment over the past few years. And we also in the U.S., you know, we're not just sitting by and watching that. DoD is also putting a lot of investments there. So calling out one sort of recent example, just 2 months ago, the establishment of Task Force Lima. So if there are any Task Force Lima folks in the audience, you know, drop a comment, say hi. Don't have to lurk in the background. But shout out to you. And that being just one recent example, but there's been a lot of activity within the DoD focused on artificial intelligence. So just kind of highlighting a handful of you know, news headlines over the past couple of months, showing that the DoD has been really trying to figure out how do we bring artificial intelligence to the mission, do it responsibly, do it ethically, all of the leads that are necessary to make this effective for the warfighter. So with all of that, you know, emphasis and push towards AI, why is it not in everything we do? Why can I come home, you know, use ChatGPT to help me write an email to my mom, but when I go into work, I can't touch that? And these are some of the things that we're hearing from folks in the defense industry as we talk to them about AI. Some folks just say, I can't use it in my mission, and that might be, and oftentimes is, they can't access those outside services that are often hosting these big AI capabilities, things like ChatGPT or Google Bard. You can't take your data there. It also is sometimes they just don't have the resources to start. That could be in terms of technical resources, just don't have the compute power to handle these things, or also educational resources. Like I said, my socks are older than generative AI. I didn't learn about this stuff when I was in college because it didn't exist when I was in college. And so there's also a knowledge gap and a learning gap. And then also, we're still figuring out with these new capabilities that are evolving so rapidly, how do we actually use this to create mission impact? What are the ways that we can benefit from AI in the mission? So those are the things we heard, and they sort of highlight some of the key technical challenges that need to be overcome to really bring AI broadly across the DoD. One of those challenges is that we work in sensitive environments, right? Either classified or other types of levels of protection on the data. And a lot of those environments are network limited. And by that, it could be, you're operating in a purely on-prem, air-gapped, disconnected from the world environment, or you may be operating in the cloud, but within an isolated, virtual private cloud without connections outside. And so you can't access those other services because you need to protect your data. There's also the availability of AI tooling and skills. With the explosion of AI, there's been an explosion of a lot of different tools and stuff, but it's still a moving target ecosystem. It's rapidly changing. And so getting a handle on those tools and being able to bring them into those sensitive environments is a challenge. And as I already mentioned, the skills gap, bringing up and getting people understanding not just technically how to use AI, but also the implications and being able to work with it. Bringing it into those environments, if we're using it for mission, we got to have big deployments, and we got to make sure that we're, availability is there, reliability is there. The operational requirements are significant as well. It's not just, a toy anymore if we're going to actually be using it for real mission capability. And then finally, the observability and audibility piece. We need to understand how these models are coming to the answers they're doing so we can verify and validate the information that we're giving and operating on. And Jared, I'm going to pause here and see, is there any other things I'm missing? I got a little excited there and sort of blazed through that.
No, I think you did it well. I think as we built this out in thinking about how we talk to people, and someone actually, one of our LinkedIn users had a really good comment there about we refuse to use it because it will destroy our craft. And I think back to the everyone that I know that's an engineer thinks of their craft in a very specific way, and we think about enhancing our craft at all times, and often look at AI as a threat to their way of life and what they're doing. And I don't think that's true whatsoever, in the sense that we are creating bigger brain spaces for ourselves. Like Sherlock doesn't even refer to himself as having a large like mind palace. It's a little brain attic in that case, if you look at the canon, right? So in that way, the ability to add tools to enhance our ability to perform cognition, to enhance our work day to day, to make us better at everything we do is critically important. And I know I only have so much context in the things that I can do every day. The more things that I can hand off to get assistance on as the expert in the room, the human in the loop, the better I feel that I will do at my own job. So I think that that's a very interesting standpoint and use case or worry that people have, and we want to be able to solve that challenge too, while keeping the expert in control of these systems. Right? You look at a lot of what's going on in the DoD today. You look at a lot about the worrying that people have of, well, is AI going to start firing off warheads? It's like, no, not if we do this right. Not if we actually keep control of what we're doing and think about this, right? So we want to solve these challenges and make these things available while keeping them true to what they are. They are systems of experts that help experts in creating more context.
Yep. Yeah, it's we're looking at AI to augment the human operators, right? Not completely replace or take the human out of the loop. And I think that's something that goes back to that, education broadly too, on what is the role that we want AI to take in these systems and in these processes. And making us better at our jobs so we can focus on the other more important things, or other, put our human minds to more creative tasks outside of that stuff. Good catch. I'm trying to keep up with the comments here whilst also presenting, so I will. I'm learning this back and forth here.
Yeah, I mean, if we were to walk back through these, right? If you look at these challenges, we're really trying to take, like, okay, we recognize that you don't get OpenAI, or you don't get Anthropic or anything else in these network limited environments, right? There's been an explosion in open source AI, but no tooling to actually go run them. So that's why like the availability of the tooling is not there. Even if they were, there's a massive amount of deployment and operations requirements to just even get there. Okay, I have to go. What do I need to go deploy? Like, what is this array? You could go bring up. There's the CNCF landscape, for example, right? The AI landscape right now could just be as big, but you need a PhD in mathematics to go understand it. And then from there, like, we need to make sure we can go observe and understand what's going on in order for this to be useful for a mission. How do we know we haven't introduced bad data? How do we know we haven't, like, how do we know people are using this correctly and making it safe for our warfighters to use? These are huge questions that very few people are asking. So yeah, turning it back to you with that, like we need to go solve these challenges, right?
Yep. Challenges that need to be solved, and some of the key capabilities that we need to bring to enable AI into these national security applications. One of them is the capability to bring locally host and locally run generative AI, right? As you said, if you're operating in these disconnected environments, or you can't hand over your data to a third-party service to use, you need to bring, instead of giving your data away, you need to bring AI to your data. And so we need the capability technically to accomplish that. And that's where data protection and regulation matters. We work in these highly regulated environments. There's all of the just getting the ATO and getting all of the things that need to happen to lock down and get the security, important security around our systems. Need to make sure that we're maintaining that protection and control over the data and not turning it over. Another big thing is, I keep saying the word data, right? Like there's a lot of interest in AI, but the thing that really is the force multiplier there is combining these generative models, these broad models, with your data to be very specific to your mission, be specific to what you need to accomplish. And so that's why those two have to be married together to really create that in mission success. You can use generic. ChatGPT can help you with a lot of great things. Ask it, what do I want for breakfast this morning? It gives some great recommendations, but that's not going to help me necessarily in my defense mission. And then operational simplicity, right? Again, keeping it simple, because there's that huge learning gap and things are moving so fast. We can't expect everybody to keep up and know what's always new. Jared, I'll admit, I don't even know all the new models that come out. Like they're coming out so fast. I try to keep up with it, and then there's a new one, right? The operator, we can't expect them to have that level of understanding and be able to speak that language necessarily. They need to speak their mission language, their job, and provide an easy interface, an easy path for them to interact with that AI. And then, I kind of a final thing there. I keep saying, air-gapped and disconnected environments, but we want solutions that can both operate in those type of environments where you don't have any connection to the outside world, but also bringing them, being able to scale up into cloud environments. And those could be private clouds or, on-premise environments, but everything in between, we need to have solutions to tackle the different types of environments that we could be operating in. So those are some of the big enablers we saw, or things we saw needed for enabling AI and national security. So that's why over the recent months and year, we've been developing LeapfrogAI, which is what we're here to talk about. It's a suite of tools for deploying, operating, and running these type of new generative AI models in national security environments. So again, focused on the ability to run this when you're disconnected in a self-hosted environment, disconnected from the internet. There's sort of three big main things that we're focused on trying to achieve here with Leapfrog. One is that sense of what we're calling data independence, and that is, like I said, instead of taking your data and going to a third-party service provider to run your LLMs and run the models with your data, you're bringing those models into your environment with your data, where you control the data, you maintain that protection, you maintain that security, you maintain that privacy, and that being a huge thing for defense missions. Also, that ability to combine those models with your data is what enables that sort of mission specific integration. So it's not just generic AI capabilities, but it's being able to develop capabilities that are unique to what you need to do for your job. And then finally is the ability to scale to mission environments. And we do this in a couple of ways. We provide with LeapfrogAI multiple backends to host different types of models, from those really, massive tens of billion parameter, full resolution models you see out there, down to much smaller models, which are, there's a lot of research and a lot of development around those recently, and improving performance around specific tasks, but being able to scale down and quantize, use quantized models running on CPUs. Point being, just to get started, you don't need to go and have a massive server farm that you're running on and a massive amount of compute and GPUs and everything. You can start small, prototype, learn, see what works or what doesn't work for your mission, and then once you've proven that out, easily scale out to enterprise level capabilities, both vertically and horizontally. So getting larger models as well as being able to handle enterprise level amounts of concurrent users. And that's where there are some other capabilities or tools out there for hosting LLMs locally. But one of the things about Leapfrog is that ability to scale to that enterprise level environment. There's things I could do to host models locally on my computer here at home, but those don't necessarily scale to tens or hundreds of users concurrently.
And this is where I want to jump in real quick, because like this part is really something that was very critical to us in the Leapfrog team from the beginning, because everyone struggles now between chip shortages to continued chip shortages to export bans. The ability to get GPUs at massive scale. If you were to look across the industry, everyone's going to suggest to you, I need $5 million to go train a foundational model. I need $800,000 to go fine tune that. I'm going to need $1 million in inferencing hardware, or three.
Oh no, Jared, I just lost you.
What we wanted Leapfrog to be able to do was,
Jared, I just lost like the last 10 seconds of you. I think
I'll go. Yep, perfect. I'll go back. So what? We've heard various pricing from 8 figures to 11 figures on how people should be going training to inferencing. And the reality is DoD mission environments are not at the place where there's just massive GPU farms out there, right? We intentionally designed Leapfrog in a way, listening to mission customers and listening to mission users. Well, we want to see the value in what AI can do for our mission. We want to stop and expand to where we're at. And so Leapfrog is designed to be expansible from a single laptop all the way up to massive hardware. And so when we say scale to mission environments, we say, okay, start proving your capability out locally, right? Take your data in from your mission locally. Integrate that all into your mission data. Bring in all the tooling that you have. Prove out your capability. Grow from there.
Yep.
And from I think our perspective, LeapfrogAI was designed to do that from the ground up, where when Baron mentions other environments, they're these big monolithic tools. Go drop your environment in. Well, okay, now I need to scale, and now I need to go find a different tool. Leapfrog scales from your laptop to big enterprise systems by virtue of that architecture, right? And that design, because we want people to be able to get rolling with it. We want people to get rolling with the capability, and then expand upon that capability, take it to production without completely rewriting and redoing everything they've done thus far.
Yep, it gives you that ability to experiment and learn, and that goes back to, we're still figuring out how do you apply, like, what are the right ways, what are the most effective ways to apply AI to the mission, and so the ability to test that out and trial that out on the small scale, and it's a big part of learning. Everyone's still figuring this stuff out. It's changing day by day. So with that, actually, Jared, I will turn it back to you to go a little bit more in depth into the weeds on LeapfrogAI, and eventually get to some demos. I want to make sure we get to the demos before we run out of time here. So
yeah, that sounds great. In that case, then we will walk through a little bit. Thank you, Baron, so much. I want to talk a little bit about how fast the AI environment is moving from an open source perspective, and why open source models are so important to the world. And so if you really look at the genealogy of AI, and we'll use this here, and I'll talk through it a little bit. But the reality is that GPT-3 came out last year. ChatGPT came out in December. GPT-4 came out shortly after that, and the world had a little bit of a shock here in realizing, okay, well, if this is closed, the irony of OpenAI is it's all closed models, and they've even stopped publishing their papers. We need an open source comparison to all of this. And so we've had a massive bloom. This is a shot from huggingface.co, which is one of the it's you can look at it as the GitHub of model hosting. And this is from really probably about 3 or 4 days ago, right? So in that time, we've integrated Leapfrog, Mistral, and at the bottom, Cynthia and Stable M3B. That took a matter of a couple hours. But the important part is we were able to adapt and move really quickly to best-in-class models. And these top best-in-class models even beat out Llama 2, which came out 2 weeks ago. So the important part takeaway from this is things are moving incredibly fast. And evaluations and benchmarks are important, which is something that we focus on the Leapfrog team as far as moving fast. So if you go forward one slide, please. So to access this, we wanted to make sure that all community tools were usable out of the gate. So we have an OpenAI-like API. We also have other APIs that we're working on, like Replicate and Hugging Face. We have, as well as LeapfrogAI specific APIs for things that open source UIs don't consider. And I'll show a demo of us just hooking up open source tooling right to LeapfrogAI and ready to go in a moment, including in environments already used by missions today. We also ship with a vector database system that allows you to do embedding creation. And the important part of that is bringing your mission data into LeapfrogAI itself. And again, getting back to how fast things are moving, we have those modular LLM backends. And not only does that allow you to scale to your mission environment, but also use a whole variety of different model architectures. So LeapfrogAI specializes in what we call and I'll give the full name of it, and I'll explain it, but decoder only transformer generative AI models. And what that means is that we focus on a very specific type of model that is the most common architecture of an LLM or any general model in the space today in order to perform those tasks. You can do a lot with a little bit of code and focus in on very specific tasks along the way while not changing what you're doing. So next slide, please. So here's a general breakdown of the architecture. I think the point of the slide is not necessarily the architecture itself, but how complicated this architecture can be. If you're going to actually go to deploy large language models or generative AI in production, you have a very large swath of things you need to do in order to make sure it's scalable. A lot of other things stuff this into one server. We want to make sure it works on your laptop all the way up to the biggest environment possible. And so we have everything from API servers to model servicing. This all goes over technology called gRPC, and the model engines scale to your size. And in the future, we're looking at things like model tuning to your mission data to better orient towards that. But in the meantime, also have an embedding so that you can bring your documents into that environment and answer questions about them. And I'm seeing some conversations around that we'll talk about later in the chat. But I feel the same pain that a lot of you are feeling there. Next slide, please. So as of today, LeapfrogAI, we focus really on text to text. This is your classic LLM use case. I'm going to give you some text. I'm going to get some text back. We want to make that multimodal in the future. You get text, you get an image back, you get a diagram back. We do speech to text today. We do this in production environments, and we'll talk about some of those environments. Baron will talk about some of those environments later, where we are performing translation and transcription to text in those environments. We also do text to vector. This is perhaps the most, I suppose, vector-based one, or the nerdiest one in the group. That supervillain's vector, but the one that enables this retrieval augmented generation that we talk about. So we'll go into that in a little bit. But next slide, please. So if we were to deploy this, we try to really focus in on making deployment very simple, and this is something that we focus on very strongly at Defense Unicorns as a whole, where every component can be discretely deployed. It is operationally simple. It does not require a massive operations team to care and feed for, and we intentionally make architecture trade-offs in order to orient towards that. So moving from right to left, we were really focused on the mission user here and their capabilities and what they can do. So they want to perform a task, right? So there may be a UI on top of that, and right now LeapfrogAI supports community UIs, but we're moving forward on them in the future. But also integrated with their mission data. And so LeapfrogAI as a platform as a service on top of that offers an API server with some LLMs and the database in order to power those mission applications with that mission data. Now we have all of that as a unit. We want to be able to put that into a mission environment. We use something called Zarf, which is another Defense Unicorns tool, to be able to deploy that in the air gap from everything from a small nuke, a Raspberry Pi, all the way up to large production environments in AWS GovCloud or other environments as well. Any adverse environment we want to be able to support. Next slide, please. So again, harkening into that operational simplicity, that rapid deployment via Zarf is very important for us. If you haven't seen Zarf, go to zarf.dev. Check it out. It's a tool on top of Kubernetes in order to deploy into the air gap and orchestrate that. We really want to be able to scale to mission demand, right? We have instances of Leapfrog running on people's laptops, testing out capabilities in fully air gap situations, all the way up to very critical environments that are beyond the scope of this LinkedIn live conversation. We'd have to be chat with you about those. We provide the logging, the observability that's not afforded by other systems right out to you. And we use hardened images from the default, right? Like we wanted to make sure that this was accreditable, ready to go for systems, A2able from the get-go. So that added a lot of constraints on just like slapping something together and shipping it, but we have a better system out of that. Next slide, please. All right, so I guess I will swap over and we will show off a quick couple demos. So I have two systems here set up. We have a Leapfrog AI dog fooding environment. We use at Defense Unicorns often. We have Dugbot, which they all have different system prompts and they all try to do different things. Some of them more funny than not. But I wanted to show off a couple of the capabilities that we have set up today, just that are ready to go. All of these took less than 30 minutes to deploy each, and other modalities, other people getting stood up, it takes about the same amount of time. So here we have a chatbot UI. This is an open source chatbot UI that is based on OpenAI's APIs. We have this set up against Leapfrog AI right now. So you can see we have NPC7B, aka chat, as well as Cynthia7B, which is the one that came out last week. And we also have a Mattermost. This is the Mattermost, my local Mattermost instantiation, but it's using the official Mattermost AI plugin. So if I come to the system console here, Mattermost released their own AI plugin, and we hooked it up to our own compatible endpoint with our own API key, and we chose the model and selected, hey, we want to use something OpenAI compatible. So here, if I go to the chatbot UI, if we move the temperature around, we can choose whether we want to be precise or creative. We're going to continue refining this to make sure people get the responses they want. But if I come in here, I can use this for a variety of tasks. I can come here and say, write me an example server in Go. And I'll just make it a little more precise here. This is the live demo. Ideally, this responds well from our environment. And it looks like we're doing pretty well. So this is using a backend called VLLM, which actually does batching. And so we've tested this out. My other machine right now is down, but you notice how it moved faster. Is because we add some batching in, it's able to speed up. But typically, if I were to go ask the same question over a production ready server, we're going to get a much faster response, right? So there's a lot like based on the server or based on the server, based on the implementation, you're going to get very different results. So now I can come back here and say like, okay, uh, can you rewrite this in using Echo? And it's going to go perform that same task. Now, Cynthia, the reason we're using it is it's scoring higher than MPT7B8K chat, the other one we're using. And you can even notice that in performance. And so part of what we're doing at Leapfrog is monitoring these benchmarks and making sure that everyone gets the best model for the job. If I were to come in here and then say like, okay, uh, we can jump up the temperature here and say, write write me a story about leapfrogs, right? And it's going to add some creativity to it, but you can notice how fast and how high these contexts are. You can even dump full documents in here and start asking questions about them, right? So while that's doing that, while it's done now, we can come in here and say, okay, hey AI, what is NIST? And it's going to take a moment. This is using the Cynthia 7B8K, which is running more local to me. And so here, okay, that's great. Now this is, like I said, this is using the out of the box Mattermost AI plugin. You can go grab from the Mattermost AI or plugin store today, and just point at a Leapfrog instance and be ready to go. Uh, And you can go ask these questions. We're working closely with the Mattermost team. We're officially partnered with them, but we're making sure we add features alongside adding retrieval augmented generation. I saw people asking about Sage, but we want this to be available in these environments. And so, what's interesting about Mattermost versus everything else, because of how it's organized, I can actually get streaming responses inside of Mattermost as opposed to anything else. So now what I can come do with this plugin, once it's done, we'll let it finish. Uh, it's gonna keep going. So let's just keep asking because I'm now interested as well. And the reason you're seeing it cut off here is because Mattermost is saying, here's my max next tokens limit. And so these are the things we're working on with this team in order to be able to configure. But now I can come here and say like, hey, summarize the thread. And you also see summarize meeting audio. So if you're using audio in Mattermost AI today, that's a feature that Leapfrog can also support, but we're not doing audio as of, in this particular thing. So here, now we're using the same AI to come and summarize that thread for you. So we're adding a lot of features into Leapfrog that help missions and are designed around mission support. And I can come here and start to ask the same questions against the same data, right? And I'm going to drop the precision down because I really want it to be very precise here. And we'll get a relatively similar answer. The nice thing about this is in the future, and I think I'll turn it over to Baron to talk about some of the future things we're doing. We can even better customize this to your mission. And actually, there's a good comment in there. The model can easily be updated at the rate the mission here provides, and that is exactly the point of Leapfrog AI. With that, I'll turn that right back over to Baron.
I was going to say, Jared, I apologize if you mentioned this earlier, but the new this new model that just came out a couple of days ago, how long did it take you to get it integrated and running up on Leapfrog?
About 20 to 30 minutes, and that was because we had to go adjust Leapfrog AI to be able to better configure the prompt formats because they use different special tokens. And I don't want to get too technical about that, but they've been trained on a certain way of speaking or like having you and I have rules about how we have a conversation, right? Where you feel like a period ends and you're prompted to talk. That's what you really have to update a model to. Um, a good question there. How resistant are these models to hallucinations, and how are you ensuring training data gathered is secure? That is a fantastic question. We are not. We are doing our own fine tuning and training today. We are not adjusting open source models. You can look at the way of fine tuning and training. The way I like to put it is, there is a difference between what you have everything in your mind that is a little bit fuzzier. I think the training of the model itself provides you a way to speak, the way to interact, what are your signal cues, but it's not actually your memory. And so I think retrieval augmented generation is incredibly useful because it's like giving you the paper, the cheat sheet in front of you of how to answer before you speak. And we can talk about that in more pre-activating certain parts of the attention context if you want to get really technical, but do not rely on the model itself to give you factual answers. And that leads into our opinions about experts in the loop. Always review what it's giving you, as well as retrieval augmented generation and having the true like vectorized or parts of it in the prompt about the question you're answering, and combination of systems is more important than just throwing a question at an LLM and hoping for a good response, right? A very good example I have of that is our CEO, Rob Slaughter, likes to ask every new model we put out, who are the presidents of the United States? And it always reduces it by one. Like no matter how good the model gets, it does drop it by one. And the reason is we had one president uh, who was inaugurated twice across two separate times, same president but two separate inaugurations, uh, and the model is not sophisticated to get that correct, right? So no matter how well you do, it is still fancy autocomplete predicting the next token. The more context you can always give it, the better. That was a great question, Eric. Thank you. Back to you, Barry.
That was there. I like the point you made of like you always want that human in the loop to verify, and that goes back to again the education piece and people, us figuring out what are the right ways to use this. And I think of it as a, if I need to go create a new document or I need to write, come up with something, there's that blank sheet of paper writer's block moment, and this is a way to easily get past that. But don't take what you're getting necessarily for granted. And I know there's a lot of research and a lot of work going into figuring out, how do you verify outputs, reliability, right now. So that's a new area. I'm excited to see what directions that goes. So I guess if we can go back to the slides. Someone on the back end. Okay, there we go. So just want to talk to a little bit sort of current state. Leapfrog is in development, in active development, but talk about where it's being used today and what we've got, coming down in the coming months and what's planned. So today we do have users that are using LeapfrogAI to do transcription. So taking audio files and converting speech to text, being able to translate that, and then also perform summarization on those translated transcripts. And then also the ability to do some of that retrieval augmented generation, being able to chat with your data, ask questions to an AI that will go and has access to your data to provide relevant responses. Now, those are things that I guess maybe the point I should take a step back is emphasizing LeapfrogAI itself is not a end-to-end solution. It's a platform on which to build solutions. So those additional capabilities, you've got LeapfrogAI as your foundational layer. You bring in a model to do, that can handle transcription, translation, whatever it is you need to do. And then there's also going to be some additional mission-specific application and integration piece on top of that. So where it's being used today are things that external users have built on top of that Leapfrog foundation to implement it for use in their mission. Where Defense Unicorn's looking forward over the next few months, we're looking to build out the rest of that stack on top of LeapfrogAI to provide those in full mission capabilities for national security missions. And so some of those things you can see there in blue, things we're committed to developing in the coming months include a chat UI that can run on top of this to enable, the user interaction, right? It needs to be operationally simple to use. So providing that capability, being able to do retrieval augmented generation. So being able to, have those mechanisms in place on top of that Leapfrog foundation to easily interface with your mission data in your environment. Being able to use that to do structured document generation. So, this is where figuring out what are those business processes that you're producing the same types of documents over and over, and it's a lot of manual work. Being able to get that jumpstart using AI with your data to produce those, and then also looking at some anomaly detection. So being able to look at imagery and detect where things are out of place, inspection type capability. So that kind of falls in that classification aspect of AI. So those are things we're actively working towards today, and we've also got a backlog of ideas. Mentioned, or I think Jared mentioned earlier, like the three kind of modalities that we support today: the text to text, speech to text, and text to vector. But looking to be able to support more and more of those, and adding the API layer for that. So doing, bringing in images, other type of data. Also looking to be able to provide coding assistance. So if you're operating in that air gap environment, running a software factory, got a bunch of developers working, providing that coding assistant, co-pilot type capability where it can help with code generation and ask questions to that assistant to talk you through your code and provide analysis on your code. And then also adding more capabilities into Leapfrog for plugins, similar to like what you can do with ChatGPT type plugins today, but integrating that into Leapfrog. So lots of exciting things on the future. So this is not the last. Well, this may be the last they let Jared and me come on one of these LinkedIn lives, but hopefully you'll see us again shortly talking about more of these. But with that, do you want to? I saw some folks already dropped some of these links in the chat. Thank you for that. But if you want to learn more, website there, LeapfrogAI. Leapfrog is free to use, so you can go and download it and start playing around with it today from our GitHub repo linked there, which you can also find from the main website. And if you are using it, please, we'd love to hear your feedback, good or bad. What's working, what's not working, what do you want to see, what do you not want to see. We want to make sure as we're building these capabilities out, we're building in the right direction to solve the right problems to enable the mission. That's the end goal of all of this. Again, getting those capabilities into the hands of the warfighters is what we care about. And there is an active community on Discord, so feel free to jump on there and share your thoughts through that. And you can always reach out, say hi. There's our email address, but we're also active on LinkedIn, and you probably found us that way, and that's why you're here today. So I guess that's all I've got to say. We'll see, Jared, were there any key questions we were missing?
No. One also, please do not put mission data on Discord. Just email us. We can talk about that. And then Jason Flowers had a great question. Do we have a web accessible demo available to show around? Yeah, you can grab the repo locally, as mentioned. We are looking at a dogfooding environment. TBD. We'll figure that out. But I think the value in Leapfrog AI in and of itself more looks like, yeah, we can do a live demo as well, as Rob just mentioned. But the value in Leapfrog itself is the full deployment. But if there's something more mission specific that you're looking at or want to go check out, does not take us long to set up a demo. We can help you out there. We just haven't set up a web-based demo yet that is available to the wider public.
Yep. But in-person demos, yeah, we can do one-on-one easily enough if people want to dig into it and learn more. Let's see. Just looking back through there, I think folks in the chat hit on most of the comments. I think there are a few interesting ones that stood out just to highlight, because this is also going to go on YouTube and people won't be able to see the LinkedIn comments. So trying to make sure we get those captured here. I think Devin had brought up, this was earlier on, but like the use case for AI being able to, quickly get answers by searching AI or using AI to search through system design documents and other such documentation. And that's absolutely a perfect use case for this. And that's where that retrieval augmented generation capability comes into play. And so, like I said, right now, Leapfrog is being used for those purposes, but with some other folks have built on top of it. Defense Unicorns is working to build out those capabilities as well, so we can provide more out of the box ability to connect into your data to do exactly that type of work. And then I think there was one other one.
Actually, can I hit on that one as well?
Yeah.
One thing that's very important to us that I think that gets missed in uh, retrieval augmented generation is often one of those spaces that we're finding is some of the most like secretive in the group. Like everyone holds their lessons around retrieval augmentation very close to their chest. Do I do it? How do I do it for code? Do I do it for a bunch of NIST tables, everything else? One of the things that we're working on Leapfrog is making sure that we integrate well with a lot of these data sources in a lot of different ways. We're very early on in that. And so one thing that's very important to me, and I think the Leapfrog team, is the stories of people's data. So if anyone wants to reach out and talk about how their documents, how they're structured, the more information there we can get, the better, because that allows us to break up documents in a better way. If you imagine you have a 100-page document of tables, that's going to look a lot differently than a novel, right? If I'm going to go pull out information to try to make that as relevant to a mission as possible. And we've seen, we've only scratched the surface on what we've seen out there as far as how people structure their documents.
Yep. There was one other comment, and Rob had already responded to it, but from Jason Flowers about accreditation, and like surprised that this is, Leapfrog is being able to be used, because there's right now all of this research with Task Force Lima looking into the security ethics and stuff, and getting that on high approval to use AI. And so it is like that's the difference. If if we were to offer this as a SaaS cloud offering or whatever, there's all the approvals that go with that. If you're going and doing a private mission deployment, so you're bringing Leapfrog as that enabling platform into your environment, then it's getting an ATO for that environment. So sort of different process. Leapfrog is just that enabling platform tool. But I thought that was a great call out there. So I want to make sure we highlight that. But it looks like questions have stopped rolling in, so maybe people are sick of hearing our voices. But I say thank you everybody for tuning in today. Hope you learned anything. And again, don't hesitate to reach out. We'd love to engage and give Leapfrog a try. Let us know what you think. We're here to make it better for everyone. So that's all I got.